All right. So here we are, and it looks like Irvin's got a brute force attack.
Yeah, I mean, this is not necessarily new news. It's just, it's still there that people are still using
RDP, yeah.
RDP to get into their work systems, and they're getting breached left and right.
Well, Microsoft does have those password complexity rules and stuff. They don't seem to do any good. Brute forcing and credential stuffing, yeah. That's why they won't even let you use it at our college, which is always a drag for my students. RDP
Right.
is blocked.
I mean, if they're not implementing things like NLA, then whose fault is that really?
I don't know, but this actually does look pretty significant. Oh, that's nice. I'm glad they
Right.
made a clickable page. Anyway, well, that's really helpful too.
Yep.
Anyway, so
Anyway,
it looks like it really went up by a lot because this is 0 and this is 1,000,000.
yeah.
And this is like March, hard to tell. February, March. So it looks like it really did go up by like a factor of 10 a month ago. That's interesting. Does suggest that like some criminal group decided to.
Yeah, so they have the numbers in a paragraph. The growth of brute force RDP went up from 10,000 to 150 January to February, soaring nearly 1,000,000 per day beginning of March.
Oh, that sounds pretty good.
And it's ebb and flowed, but it's remained elevated into April.
Ah, that's Liz's dog. I wondered what that noise was. That explains it.
Yes, this is the source of the Wookiee
Okay.
noises.
Yeah. He does sound like.
Wrestling.
Yeah, well, good. At least you're protected from home invaders.
Yeah. And, finishing my sandwich usually.
That too, yes. All right. And so I remember the fake nature challenge contest. Why don't you tell us about this one, Kaitlyn?
So a few years ago, about 2 years ago, Ajit Pai and the head of the FCC wanted to roll back net neutrality. Now, net neutrality, for people who might be new to this subject, is the idea that all packets on the internet are supposed to be treated equally. So if you, say, get a packet from Google, or if you get a packet from, my grandma's collection of catwhiskers.com, both are supposed to be treated the same. And there's been a push by a lot of big ISPs to make that not the case. So they could have essentially like a tiered internet. So you could maybe pay a little bit extra to get Netflix for a little bit faster. Or maybe big companies could pay to get the fast lanes on your ISP, and they can make a little bit more money that way. And there was a huge backlash against this. And of course, the net neutrality and all these laws are controlled by the FCC. And the FCC has a process to go through to change things like net neutrality, which includes a public forum and making public statements on their website. And so a bunch of people were upset and concerned about the repeal of net neutrality. So they tried posting comments on their website. And naturally, there was also people and companies with a lot of money who wanted to get this push. So there was a lot of concern about some of the comments being posted to the FCC being fake. And it turns out that is likely the case. Many of the comments for net neutrality came from dark money groups, came from big donors, as well as from big outside sources like Russia, who are trying to influence our politics. And the FCC kind of tried to sweep it under the rug. But what this article goes over is the fact that judges are saying, hey, no, this is not okay. Hand over your data so we can actually investigate this and get this out to the public. 2 years too late.
So it was Obama.
Oh, it was totally Obama's fault. Oh, yes. Ajit Pai totally blamed Obama for all this.
DDoS activity, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they tried to claim there was a DDoS attack when there wasn't. I mean, it was a giant.
Yeah, I remember that.
Calamity. Yeah.
I remember seeing part of that go by. So it was the Russians. That would make sense. The Russian troll army. And I guess we might have some proof of that.
Big money. Yes, and like I said, because repealing net neutrality. So it should be noted that Ajit Pai is a former, I think he was a lawyer or someone at AT&T, and he has a lot of connections to big ISPs who wanted net neutrality repealed for a while. And so this was one of his big things. Like as soon as he got in, he tried to repeal net neutrality. I even made some pretty cringy videos about it
Oh, yeah.
to share. I mean, oh God, it was terrible.
Him dancing along something.
Yeah, it was terrible. But yeah, and then once it came out that all these people were upset and posting websites, he or posting on their website, he claimed that there was a DDoS attack when there probably wasn't one, and he just tried to take it down, and yeah, it was a big mess.
So his mistake was he didn't blame it on Hillary. So,
Right? No, he just blamed it on Obama.
yeah, that's not as effective.
Yeah.
So here I thought this was vitally important information. So they made this group on Facebook because of their lockdown to pretend to be an anthill. And this became so popular, there's like more than 1 million people all making posts pretending to be ants. And they're making posts like lift. There's like 4 things you can do. Lift, and lift is the main. No interview, only work for Queen. That was the interview. So bite and lift are the 2 things you can do.
Wow.
And this is bite, dig, and lift. Those are the things you do as an ant. And so they've been posting things like this. And then they started invading other Facebook groups. Ants are invading. Millions of people will charge into your channel about other things and start talking about ant talk. So anyway, they're
We're getting bored. So we're really getting bored.
Well, that's one interpretation. I think it might be a new religious wave. It might be, greatly improving the world. Anyway, so you can all join. This is it.
So I have a link for you, Sam.
Yeah. Oh, good.
Yeah. My internet's oh, there we go. Hold on.
Working. That doesn't seem likely. By the way,
okay, so here we go. So you'll like this. You'll like this. I have a link for you, Sam.
Putting up the Zoom chat. Are you putting it somewhere else?
Putting in the Zoom chat. Yeah. It's a subreddit.
Oh, there. Something came
about
up.
About cats standing up. And you'll notice something very interesting about this subreddit. Notice all the names of the posts.
Kool-Aid.
Cat.
Oh,
and take a look at. There's something here with 121 comments. Scroll up. Click on where it says 121 comments. See where it says 2.9.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Click on the comments. Look at all the comments.
Cat. Well, yes. So, there must be.
And that was that was just a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
So if it had been me, I would have used spam. But anyway,
they will delete anything it's not CAT period.
Okay. Well, they will delete anything.
That's awesome.
Oh, okay. There you go. So perhaps you're reinforcing Irvin's concept that people are bored.
Yes.
That is one possibility.
That when that ant lifts, just you have 3 things you do. Yeah, remind me of that.
So this means people clearly need to be sent off to go work and catch the virus to give them something better to do. This is to get you overall socialist feeling that people are snowflakes and deserve to express themselves. No, instead we should send them down in a coal mine.
Like you said, that's one interpretation.
Yeah. Oh, this one I thought was pretty good too, in the spirit of constructive activities.
Speaking of having too much time on your hands, I thought this was pretty good. It must be a slow news day. Especially when we've got a guy on the beach in Florida right now dressed up as the Grim Reaper and talking to the local news. Apparently, in small town England, they're not as bemused by it as we are.
Yeah.
I mean, my thinking was like, what better time to wear that outfit? I mean, you've got a plague mask just laying around. Like this might be the only time you get to wear it outside of Halloween.
Yeah.
And it's not deemed weird because it fits the occasion.
I think
it was yeah, and it was funny because one of the complaints from the citizenry was that he was walking around looking like a weirdo, and I'm like, man, if that was an issue here in the Bay Area, everyone would get citations.
Yep. All right. So Indonesia's online store.
The largest online store was breached. It was a PostgreSQL data dump
Oh,
filled with a treasure trove of info.
doesn't look like hashed passwords. Okay.
Yeah, they're hashed. So the passwords are hashed with SHA-2384.
I've never seen anybody use 384 for anything before. Neat. But
So
without
not
assault and with only one round of 384, it's really completely worthless.
bad. Right.
Okay, neat.
But hey, yet another breach.
Yep. So the Indonesians are hosed. All right. And this one looked pretty awesome. I just read this one.
Right. Oh, so this is a great idea. Persons are replacing ankle bracelets with smartphone apps, which is going about as well as you would think. Not only is it the obvious, like, this is a bad idea, it's also more expensive because you have to maintain these apps and you have to get the prisoners, I guess, or the convicts to have a smartphone capable of running it, and you have to maintain the smart app all the time. And it's,
What could go wrong?
yeah, what could possibly go wrong? Actually, one of the biggest complaints about this app is that, of course, you could just leave your phone at home, right? So they thought about that. They thought, okay, we need to have the phone ping someone and say, okay, push a button to say you're actually here.
Oh.
And so people are taking this app to work, and in the middle of meetings or they're trying to get work done, they go, ping, 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 you got to push the button. Ping, 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 you got to push the button. Ping, 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 you got to push the button. And it's
Sounds like it would be hilarious if you did it in a movie. I saw the Simpsons episode where they have the ability to shock the other person.
Yeah. And like supposedly they'll do it like 10 times an hour. Like bing, 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 10 times.
That sounds awesome.
It's not awesome if you have to do it.
Maybe, well, I found the app. I could totally download the app. I should put this in my mobile hacking class.
Yes, dude. Yeah, I'm sure the app is completely and totally vulnerable, and you could do so much with it.
Oh, this is great. Yeah. I got to check it out. It sounds like good, clean fun. So anyway, so we need to hire a bunch of people to do tracking, and they're hiring contact tracers. I thought it might be a job for students who, it'd be better than driving Uber maybe, would be to call someone and tell them, you got to get tested because somebody you hung around is infected. So now other states, like the red states, are just not bothering to hire anybody and just open and pretend everything's over, which is apparently the federal recommendation in reality, although they supposedly want something else. But anyway, like governor, for Georgia, they think they need 1,000 contract tracers, but so far they only have 300. But California is hiring a lot more. So anyway, it should be a job. I think it's better than telemarketing and pretty much about the same thing, just calling people, telling them, in case you care, you're going to die.
Yeah, you can have a lot of fun with that job.
Well,
ring, ring, ring.
you would get fired.
Hey, you might die, so you might not want to come and come talk to us.
You can start calling random people. In fact, you could just like find out the script and then just start calling random people. In fact, that would be like something to do rather than post cat or ant in the forum.
Yeah.
Why call random people? I would start off with the top of the list. If this was just a troll exercise, I'd start calling all the people that have been at those protests.
You could
Oh, nice.
You could send it to the entire CCSF email list, apparently, easily enough.
Just email, send it to the mailing list email, and you're good.
Yep. All right. And so New York tried to buy ventilators from.
Okay, so this story was crazy. I thought essentially what happened was this guy in Silicon Valley allegedly replied to a tweet that Trump had put out a month ago saying that, calling on Ford and GM to start changing over their assembly lines to make ventilators.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I thought that he all he did to get this to happen was reply to a tweet from Trump, and essentially then the deals went through, and the guy ended up getting this massive contract to make these ventilators, and he got paid like, all of this money, the $69 million, but the ventilators never materialized ever. So,
But how does he expect to get away with this? I mean, he knows who he is and stuff, right? So.
yeah, but I mean, I don't know. You can get pretty far pretty fast with $69 million. So,
Well, I guess I got it right. Okay.
Nobody knows where this guy is
Oh.
or where the money's at, and they're like, "Will you please give us our money back?" And he's not responding.
Oh, well, this was one of the cases when I worked at the escrow agency. This company had a marketing model. They would put ads in newspapers and business journals, and they would sell you like toner and paper for really cheap. And they ran for years, and they just never delivered anything. And a large number of companies would just pay for it and not notice for a long time. So I was the guy that got the database to try to give them funds back. But
Wow.
This is a pretty successful business model, to just sell stuff and just never deliver it.
Yeah, I don't know. I was pretty surprised by this, because you'd think that there'd be a little bit more hardcore vetting of contractors before just handing over $69 million, or you'd think, maybe we want to buy a sample unit first to make sure it's good.
No,
But it just
You think
seems like
the government works like a private business?
No, but in times of emergency, everyone drops all that and they say, "I'll get the stuff. I'll be a hero." I could totally do that.
Yeah, if I worked for the government, which I totally don't, but if I did, I would imagine right now that we would get a bunch of coronavirus extra funding for things we might need.
Yeah.
And I would imagine that we just went out and just bought stuff, with very little, just what do you need, just
Yeah.
how federal government works.
Absolutely. And then we got Xiaomi phones.
Yep, the phones are recording everything that the users are doing on their browsers, even in incognito mode.
Yep, which I thought that was pretty impressive. I mean, he totally picked it up in Wireshark or something. You can see it send the entire request to the server. But where do you get a Xiaomi phone? Are these things just in China or something?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I think you can get them here somewhere.
Let's see.
Or maybe not anymore. But yeah.
Wonder if I can buy one. Buy phone. Maybe it's cheap or greater. How to buy it in USA.
You can get them here.
You can get them from Android Pit. Now that sounds like the place to go.
You can probably also get them from places like Banggood or AliExpress.
No, they say talk of them coming to the US somehow hasn't happened. Yeah.
I bet you can get them on AliExpress. Hold on.
I've seen ways to get them here, because I was actually thinking about getting one for a research project.
Yeah. If it's going to have interesting vulnerabilities, that might make it worth getting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure you can get one over.
Yeah. Maybe it is worth having for us, not for actually.
Yeah. I see them for sale over on AliExpress, so you can totally buy them there.
How much does it cost?
I see one for about $90.
Well, they have different models.
Well, that's
Yeah,
not
yeah.
terrible.
There you go.
One for $100, one for $250.
Okay, well, might be.
There's like whole Xiaomi stores in China, like the Apple store, basically. Actually, they look like the Xiaomi stores are a total ripoff of the Apple store. They look exactly like it.
Oh, okay, well, that makes sense. All right, and now we got.
Oh wow! I'm just looking at the Xiaomi Mi. It is the iPhone 10, like.
Yeah.
Super.
Well, and they make a computer that is the Xiaomi computer that is totally the MacBook.
Oh, that is so funny.
Yeah. And this one here, from Kaitlyn, mobile phones show that people are ignoring the lockdown.
Yeah, so I had an article about surveillance using phones and it not working well. Well, here's an example of surveillance with a phone kind of working well. Crowdsourcing data, so individual privacy is still maintained while kind of gathering data about how well the social distancing is working. And they found that it's not going as well as you would expect. People are still leaving their houses. And there was a big uptick of people staying at home for a while, but people are starting to leave again, slowly, leave.
If this article is right, then the entire lockdown had like no effect. It went from 20% to 40%. That's the whole.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not as effective as
quarantine
as you would hope.
But this is
but the thing is, it doesn't tell about where you went or how you went there. So if you went out to the grocery store wearing, full face mask and a bunny suit, hazmat suit, that's the same thing as going to an empty park where no one's around, and enjoying some nice sunshine. So it's not, full data, but we can see that people still are leaving and doing things even during the lockdown. And we wouldn't have this data if we didn't sort of crowdsource and peek into people's geolocation.
Texas. Do they have California?
They do not.
Hey, there's New York.
Yep.
Gee, that's what I thought. That's more like it.
Yeah.
And this is kind of what I expect here. A really big difference. It seemed to me like the lockdown really mattered here. There's nobody on the road and they're all going 100 miles an hour and stuff. And so, I mean, the big jump here is the small decline here is not too shocking.
Right. I mean, but it is showing that people are starting to get kind of frustrated with the lockdown and kind of easing up on the restrictions, which you would expect.
Yeah. Anyway,
but if we didn't have this kind of crowdsourcing, invasion of privacy, we wouldn't have these numbers to kind of look at and figure out, how well the social distancing is working in different counties and stuff.
Well, and how did they get this data? Did anybody actually agree to this? Is it from the telco providers or who?
That's a good question.
A lot of it's from Google Maps data.
Google Map knows where everybody is?
Well, yeah, Google and Apple have actually been collaborating on this.
Yeah, all we know, it comes from SafeGraph, which is a phone location data company.
Yeah.
So sell and resell your location data to everybody without any. I know the one that I saw like a month ago was a Waffle House or something, knew where everybody went on Sunday when they were shut.
Yeah.
And so everybody who runs their app, it's just telling everybody where they are all the time without telling anybody.
Is Italy still in lockdown?
No, I don't think so. But I'm not sure. I thought it was pretty much over in Italy. But I haven't paid a lot of attention to what happens in Italy. So here's a smaller version of the same thing. So to make sure you're really working from home, you can make you install this app and turn on your webcam, and it totally keeps track of everything. You have to make a digital avatar and spend your workday in a digital office, and it's somehow connected to your face like the fake face that Kaitlyn tends to use. And so this sounds pretty awesome. There was one that came out years ago where they were going to know whether you were at your desk or you left to go to the bathroom. They were going to have a sensor under your table that photographed your legs or something. So I don't know anybody doing this, but it sounds pretty awesome.
Because the thing under the desk is not creepy at all.
No, well, neither is this. This will be just wonderful. This is like when they're telling you take a test, like the OSCP, they make you turn on a camera and somehow try to see if you're cheating, which sounds pretty stupid to me, but anyway.
I can't imagine hackers figuring out a way to get.
Yeah, that's like, you saw the Zoom background, where you make a video of yourself and then you just leave and you appear to be there for the meeting, or there's two of you and stuff like that. That sounded pretty good. Yeah. Anyway, this will be fun to watch. It comes to that. And GrubHub, everyone's hating on GrubHub. I've never used GrubHub.
Yeah, I have, but I'm not gonna anymore because they're doing some pretty slimy things. So I thought this was one thing that happened this week was there was this invoice going around the internet from the restaurant, where it showed all of the fees and percentages, other percentages that GrubHub took out of their orders, and it was like $1,000 worth of orders, and the restaurant ended up getting like $300 or something like that, which is kind of insane that they're I had thought they were just screwing over the drivers and the consumers, but it turns out they're also screwing over the restaurants too. So it is pretty bad, but then it gets worse. So one thing they've been doing is buying restaurant domains and squatting them because they want to corner the market on food delivery, which is pretty slimy. There was another, I'm going to paste a link in the chat here. There was another thing that they got busted for doing late last year, where they were replacing restaurants' phone numbers in Yelp. Yelp was replacing restaurants' actual phone numbers with the phone number, the ordering phone number for GrubHub. So that it would route customers to GrubHub instead of placing orders directly with the restaurant, so that they would get a cut, and then Yelp would get a cut of it too. Yeah. And so I thought that this was pretty sleazy.
Yeah, well, maybe I did use them. I went to order for my Chinese restaurant, the one I usually go to, and there was a website. So I ordered from the website, and they called me and said, "Oh, those guys will never pay us. Just to hell with them. Just call us directly." Anyway, well, but I like this. This reminds me of back in the old days, Russia used to say that these neighboring countries have requested us to please invade.
Right, exactly. That's a great analogy. Like, yeah, we're doing this to help them.
That's right. They didn't have a website, so we helpfully put one up for them.
Yes, which we will then extort money out of them to give them access to, and if they don't pay a high enough extortion fee, they won't pay.
This is the same argument Google makes to say you should be grateful that we're indexing your stuff.
And they said they did the same thing. The messed up thing was that article the link I just dropped in the chat. They did the same thing with the phone numbers, only this was extra ridiculous in that they had put they'd put the phone numbers for the ordering in one button and said, if you want to make an order, call this number, and it would reroute to the GrubHub number. But then if you wanted to ask questions, they put the restaurant's real phone number in there because they didn't want a bunch of people going to the GrubHub 800 number asking questions about, does your soup contain corn or whatever?
Yep.
Right, because they wouldn't know.
Right.
Well, that sounds even logical in a way, but yeah.
Yes and no. They were doing it without notifying the businesses.
The one about 15 years ago, before Google bought them, Yelp was basically an extortion racket. They would put up negative reviews about you, and you had to bribe them to take them down.
Yes, and it's funny that you said that, because there was this guy in my neighborhood who had an awesome pizzeria, and he actually ended up, they made a movie, like a small documentary about this guy, because he totally here, I'm going to paste another link in the chat. Oh, whoops, that wasn't the one, sorry. Yeah. So this was really good. This Italian guy, like, totally stood up to them, and he here we go. That's the one. They made a movie about him called the $1 Billion Bully, and he had this little pizzeria, and at one point he would give you like anywhere from like 25 to 50% off to write a shitty Yelp review, to give them like a 1-star Yelp review. And like, he totally took them on, and he was like a complete troll. And so if you read this menu's kind of hilarious, because it's got stuff. He made his own Yelp specific pizza menu, and he would just write these kind of hilarious rants.
What a great idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and he's just great, and I mean, he made awesome, he made like really awesome food and stuff like that, but he just wasn't gonna play their game, and it actually worked out in his favor. Like it just, you know, it drove. Here's his personal website. I just put it in there. It's davidsaratini.com. He actually like capitalized off this big time, because all it did was ended up driving more customers to his business. So I thought that, yeah. And the documentary is actually really good if you ever get a chance to watch it. But
great. I'm going to add this to the links page. Those are good links.
It is, and he actually ended up just selling his restaurant this year, so he's gone, and I'm sad about that. But I'm happy for him that it worked out, because he's just a really cool person, and I think it's a good testament to like what one total small, I mean, and it was just a tiny little restaurant in a strip mall. This guy's not like rich or famous or anything, but he really, you know, I think it's a good testament to what one person can do standing up to a huge corporation like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's great. All right. You guys got anything else to say?
No.
Going to stop the recording then.